Hey, welcome back to part 5 of the Single Plane Golf Swing, Play Better Golf, the Moe Norman Way, a book that I wrote about Moe Norman's golf swing and learning his simple single plane swing. Now, if you look at the beginning of the book, I always want you to reference the fact that you're seeing the Moe Norman model here. So it's really nicely laid out at the very beginning of the book where you see pictures of Moe's swing as I go through the various positions of his golf swing. So as we go through this, there's one thing I want to cover before I get into a little bit more of Chapter 8, a quick review of Chapter 8, and even into Chapter 9. I want to talk about one thing that's very important about this entire process and concept of the single plane swing. So one of the differences that you're seeing in the single plane swing versus a conventional swing, and many of you out there may be in the conventional golf world or you don't even know it, but if you've taken lessons before, you probably haven't learned the Moe Norman single plane swing. I want to show you something that might be kind of common sense, but in the same sense, it's a way of looking at the swing that you may have never seen before. Check this out. So the first thing is that because we're on a single plane, and you're going to see me reference this throughout the book, starting at the address position, is you're going to notice that, you know, a conventional swing has you hanging your arm straight down. Well, now we're actually moving the club into an alignment with the trail arm. But look what happens is we're a little further from the golf ball, and now we have a different spatial relationship. So I talk about this spatial relationship quite a bit because what I mean by a spatial relationship is really what the upper body, the spine has to do, or the lower body has to do to get to a very important moment. One of the things that I reference in the book is what I call perfect impact. And I want to kind of highlight this part of the book a little bit here because perfect impact is actually the goal of everybody's golf swing. It doesn't matter. Like if you take the club up and you swing around like this and you come down, if you get to a perfect impact position, you'll hit a good golf shot. Now the goal is to make the most efficient, simple motion in the backswing and the downswing to get to impact, which is why you're here learning the single plane swing. But again, this impact position that I call perfect impact is what we're trying to achieve. Perfect impact is this, is when we get to the spot at the bottom of the golf swing where our body is in the proper tilt and rotation, the hands are leading the golf club into where we can compress the golf ball. So the hands are leading, the body's rotating, and there's angles, and the club approaches the golf ball, you compress the ball, and the ball separates from the face. Now you look at the body position here, there's an ideal position of the upper body, and there's an ideal position of the rotation of the lower body. One of the major differences you're going to see in the single plane swing is the lead knee position, and we need to talk about this. This is what I call the transition. This is what you see me reference in Chapter 8 of the book is transition. And transition is probably the most commonly asked question I get about the golf swing. How do you start the downswing? That is the transition. A lot has to do with the lower body and what's happening. I'm going to go back to this spatial concept for a minute. So when we talk about this ideal impact position, look how this spatial conversation comes into play here. Because now, when I take the club back, and I transition down, notice that if I lift my body, I'm moving further away from the golf ball. Notice how if the spine stands itself up, I can't get down to the golf ball, right? I'm too far from it. So we created a space. We got to make sure that the spine position stays in the same spatial relationship to strike the ball on the ground. So now you're seeing why I talk about that spatial relationship, because how we move our body, including how we move our pelvis, and our lower body determines whether we can get to that perfect impact position. So let's go through a quick review of transition. Transition is when, and you'll see it in my book and throughout the chapters of transition, some very important things are occurring in the backswing that allow us to make the downswing. And look, if your instructor that you're working with, I don't know who you work with, isn't helping you with this, they don't understand what's actually going on from a biomechanical standpoint. So I want you to pay really close attention here to why the backswing is so important to the downswing. So the first thing is this, is when you make a backswing motion, you can see it throughout the book here when I talk about the backswing, you'll notice you'll see me in the book that I have a line drawn on my trail leg because I'm bracing against this trail leg, the inside of this trail leg. We have to create this framed up brace position. Now, why do we want that? Because it's allowing my pelvis to then be in a forward moving position. See that? From that braced trail leg, I can easily move the lower body before the upper body. In the book, I'm talking about the separation of upper body and lower body. And you're seeing now that I'm separating because I'm moving this that direction before this moves that direction. Moe talked about the vertical drop. You can't, this is what he was talking about. You must start this movement of the arms with this lower body. It doesn't start by, you don't just drop the arms. You move lower body first, and then everything follows that, and you get the proper sequence of events. That's the transition of the swing. And it's being created, the ability to do it, and I'm highlighting this because of all the thousands of people I've taught this golf swing to, this tends to be a really important aspect to get this right. And if you're having trouble with a lot of things in your swing, this may be it, is that you're not getting the proper backswing position against that leg to create the proper transition. So really make sure the backswing is correct and you're hitting that proper position. Now, let's talk about, and in the book I go through the lead knee position because now look what's happening. And look, this isn't stuff you really have to work that hard on. You just have to make sure you hit these positions. So one of the things that Moe did in his golf swing that I believe was the genius of his swing obviously starts at address, but because he has a different spatial relationship at address, now his body works differently than you see in a conventional golf swing. One of the major differences is how the lead knee is positioned throughout the swing. You saw in the previous chapter that I was talking about this tug of war, right? This tug of war you have because you have this linear force being pulled in your body and you must support your body. And look at the lead knee being flexed and the lead foot being rotated. So that is allowing me to stabilize my body. So let's look now at this total equation here of transition, how the trail leg is functioning into the lead leg. So watch this now. So now I'm into my backswing, and now I transition. See how I'm transitioning? So I'm pushing from the inside of this leg first over into that knee, right? So there's that push. Look at my knee, it's stabilizing myself. And now I'm going to move, then I can lag the club behind and move down. Now I want you to notice that knee is staying flexed and that foot is staying down. Why do I want this? All right, why do I want that? And this is the huge difference between Moe's swing and conventional. Watch this. So what happens now is if my trail foot is down and my lead knee is flexed, look what happens to my spine. It stays back, it's staying back, and now I have the same spatial relationship to the golf ball. See that? I'm not doing this. I stand up, my foot comes up, I get too far from the ball. Watch this, same space. So you see what's happening here is everything relates to itself. It's one of the reasons why I always tell people, you just can't take one little piece of Moe's swing and get it. Because I've created a different spatial relationship at the start, I have to have a different movement all the way through. Now, what that lead knee is doing also, which you might not even know, it's saving your back. Because now that your lead knee is flexed, the weight is being put here on the leg and here, right here on the strongest part of your body. And now your back, no more compression and stress on your back. So you're saving your back when you're doing this, which is another huge component to why you should be swinging like Moe. Now, let me take a look at one more thing in the chapter that I want to review with you. So we've talked about the trail leg. We've talked about the lead leg. I reviewed, if you want to, go through the single plane trainer where you put the balls down on the ground. Don't forget about that. It's important drills. Let's talk about a little drill I do here on page 122, which is just a simple thing you can do to work on the motion of your body. Now, if you've seen some of my training and some of the schools I do, I like to work the golf swing from the inside out. What do I mean by that? If you can perfect body movement, then you can move a club around your body very easily. Because what I've seen so much in all of the thousands of people that I've taught is that if they have trouble with a motion, it affects the club movement, right? So let's talk about how we move the inside of the body correctly. So one of the things I want you to do, we're just going to work on lower body for a second. I'm going to have you put your arms across your chest like this. I'm going to have you tilt forward. So tilt forward into a forward bend. And then give yourself that little tilt that Mo has at address, that side bend. Now all I want you to do is take a backswing and work against your leg. And then I want you to move your body over. See that? Now notice when I'm doing that, I'm not rotating my upper body into that knee, and I'm going to rotate. Now here's the key to this. And this is going to tap into chapter 9 and 10 a little bit here, is I'm going to go all the way through until finish, and I'm going to separate my upper body all the way from my lower. Now I don't mind after impact if your head moves forward. I want it to move forward. See that? I'm going to do it down the line, and I want you to see this. Backswing, transition, rotation, and look at my final position. I'm still in my tilt. See that? This is one of the weaknesses that people have. You might not believe this, but one of the things that I see people have most of the trouble with is getting all the way into their finish. And they're because of whatever weaknesses they have or they haven't been there before. I want you to work around this knee. Feel like the knee doesn't move, and you go all the way around your body. Now, one of the feelings I give you in my book, if you look through how I'm kind of demonstrating this, the book is written to give you some feelings. One of the feelings that I want you to have, a lot of people ask me, well, is it on the outside of the foot, on the inside of the foot, towards the toe of the foot? Here's what I want you to feel. When you make this transition, I want you to feel when the knee goes towards the toe, it's like you're stepping into a shoe. Boom, you plant your foot. So just get that idea. I don't want your leg to go too far. That's not in the correct position either. I want your leg to be solid, bent but solid. That's a very stable position. That stops the hip, and now you can rotate through. So you'll see in my book that I'm demonstrating how the lead foot is more like you're stepping into a shoe. So now I'm going to go back to that backswing, step into my shoe, rotate around that flex lead knee. Does that make sense? So now you're transitioning into the lead foot. All your weight is going into that lead leg there, and then you're rotating around it. That's where speed is produced. That's where power is produced. And now, let's come back to perfect impact, because now we're going to be able to see how that movement of the lead knee and that transition into it from that backswing, watch how perfect impact occurs now. Backswing, step into my shoe, rotation around that flex lead knee, bang. I hit that perfect impact position. Now watch, I can go all the way through now and keep my posture. That's how a perfect golf swing is made. That's how your sequencing is produced, and that's how you achieve that perfect impact. Because look, perfect impact is not a position, it's a moment in space. It's a moment in this space where when you hit it, you're swinging through it. Your body must be in the proper position spatially to get there. So that's today's work. Do rotation of your body, swing a couple golf clubs, make sure you're feeling it, and make sure you're really working. Right now I want you working on that flex lead knee and that foot being in the right spot, and feel how you're rotating around that lead leg position and getting through that perfect impact. And by the way, if you're enjoying these chapter reviews for my book, don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell icon there next so you make sure you get notified anytime we do a new review. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you soon.